Well, here we are again. And you'll notice that today I'm not actually in the shop because there's not going to be any guitar work going on per se for this episode. A lot of what I've been doing so far has been very focused on building out and preparing the body of the telecaster that I'm building. But the body's only one part. And we haven't really talked about much aside from what I'm doing with the body and the wood and most recently the binding. And so today I thought I would actually take a little pause and go through all the other parts that are going into this guitar, because there are a lot of them. The first thing that I want to address is the neck. I made a decision originally, and I don't think we've talked about this previously, that I'm going to acquire the neck pretty much pre-made. Not finished, but shaped. And there are a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost, there's a terrific amount of technology and precision that goes in doing a compound radius neck, which is what I want. It's far and away the most demanding part of the build. And not having done a build before, I think that's one part that's reasonable to try to buy. There are a lot of specialized tools involved in that, from things to set frets to the ability to machine a compound radius neck to begin with. So I will be acquiring that, and we're going to have a specific episode to cover the neck in detail when it arrives. Today is the 10th of July, and I'm expecting it's still 3 or so weeks out before receipt. So we'll cover that one then. In terms of the other materials, I have almost everything in at this point, and I wanted to cover the things in detail for what other components are going to go into the build. So let's start with something that is near and dear to recent episodes, the binding. I think, as everybody knows, Mad Cat guitars tend to have binding top and bottom, and we've been talking about the preparation for the binding across the last episode. And so I have here both the top and the bottom portions. In the previous episode, I indicated that the top of the guitar is going to be bound in 1/2 inch, and the bottom is going to be bound in 1/4 inch. Some may think that's something of a controversial choice to not have the bindings the same size for the top and the bottom, but I wanted the top binding to specifically cover the maple part of the top and help cover the joint between the maple and the ash back. And to do that, I needed 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is not an uncommon binding size, so it was easy enough to find. This binding is actual celluloid binding. In fact, it was kind of interesting. When I ordered it, I had to have it shipped here with a hazardous material designation because, as everybody knows, binding made out of celluloid can be a fire hazard. That'll be interesting when it comes to heating it for the bend. You can also see that it's a really nice antique style tortoise shell with a lot of translucent parts to it. So the binding is now in hand, and one of the very next episodes is going to be to start to route the binding channel for application there. Once a guitar is together, one of the first things most people are going to ask is, what kind of pickups are you going to put on it? And to that end, I have ordered some custom pickups from Lindy Fralin. And I have ordered pickups that are not typical for a Mad Cat. Most Mad Cats use actually Stratocaster pickups on them, but I wanted tele pickups on this, but I also wanted them to be noiseless but not humbuckers. Lindy Fralin handles that with what they call a split blade Telecaster pickup. And so we're going to open this one up, and I can show you that on the Lindy Fralin split blades, you can actually see that rather than individual pulled magnets, we have a split blade, which gives it hum-free performance in a traditional Telecaster style pickup. So Lindy Fralin split blade teles are going in. Well, you can't really talk about pickups without also talking about the controls, the switches and the pots. And to that end, I have ordered an obsidian wire pre-wired solderless kit. These things are pretty cool. They come completely pre-assembled. So I've got pots here that are actually selectable with a little dip switch that is on here to be either 500 or 250K. It has a 3-position switch. And in addition to the switching and pots, you can see that it is nicely pre-configured, and it has a little kind of punch bay on here for the wiring with a common ground bus, so that this can be put together solderless. It's also very easy then to change on the fly the configuration of your pickups and whether you're using 250s or 500s to really dial in the sound that you want. With the electronics covered, the next logical thing to look at is, well, what's holding the strings at either end of the guitar? And to that extent, I have chosen bridge and tuners for this. So for tuners, I have gone with genuine Fender. These are locking tuners. They've got an 18-to-1 gear ratio. And of course are all black to pick that up, but you can't go wrong with a set of Fender locking tuners. On the bridge side, I've gone with a go-to. And like a traditional Mad Cat, of course, this is not a full tele bridge. This is more of a Strat style. It's got individual intonation for the strings, also in black, but brass. This thing's actually pretty heavy and gets great rating. So I've not used a go-to bridge on any of my other guitars previously, and I'm excited to see how this one compares to the Fender that I've got on the Strats. Last but not least, there are a ton of miscellaneous little parts that go into making any guitar. From the plate to attach to the neck, you got to have a control plate to cover up the pots and the switch. You need knobs for the switch and the control plate pots. You need little ferrules for the back. This is a string through body, and so you need the little metal part that's going to hold the string on the back side of the guitar. We have strap buttons for both the end as well as the top. I happen to go with Grover's with quick release on those. And miscellaneous jack plate screws and jack plate itself, because you got to ultimately plug this thing in. Not to mention the tiny little things that often you would think go unnoticed, which are things like the string tree at the top of the head of the guitar to hold the strings in position. So I have a mixture of Grover's and Dobros and Music Lilies and 920 customs for all of this, but pretty much all here at this point in time. That's where the build's going. There are a lot of internal parts that aren't really parts per se, but other pieces that I'm going to need to do that, such as copper foil tape for shielding the inside, tape to hold the binding on. I need to have a binding offset router bit and the proper bearing for the depth of the binding that's going to go on. You need binding glue. The list goes on and on. There are a ton of little ones like that. We'll cover a lot of those individually as we go through. But I wanted to share overall what my approach was to getting the various components. Each one of these, it's suffice to say, has taken a lot of research, especially when it came to the pickups and the pots and the switching, the tuners and the bridge. All of those are really fundamental components that'll produce the sound, hopefully, that is characteristic of what I'm after. So after this, it's going to be back into the shop. Stay tuned for another inside look when the neck arrives, and we'll do an unboxing on that one.